Half of the talk videos on our channel are about some of the most common challenges we all face in life. We choose these topics because we want to help others. One of the things I repeatedly advise is acceptance. To not control, escape, or numb ourselves from life's difficulties as I did in the past, but accept them as they come, face them, and continue on with positivity. Which brings me to the other half of our talk videos. We encourage others to believe in the unbelievably positive, that a good, perfect God exists. But how can I believe this when the world is full of so much suffering? Isn't the existence of suffering enough evidence to prove that if there is a God, he is neither good or perfect? In philosophy, this is what's called the problem of evil. And in this video, I'm going to be sharing a part of my worldview as it relates to this question. Hi, my name is Daniel, and I love talking about philosophy and religion. If you're interested in these topics as well, don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Now, before I jump right into today's topic, first, I just want to clarify a few things to set the right expectations. Number one, I'm not a trained theologian or philosopher. I'm just a dad who cares for his children and wants them to benefit from a good balance between realism and idealism. 2, this video is not at all about proving the existence of God. 3, this video is not about proving the goodness or perfectness of God. And 4, this video isn't meant to answer all the different variations of the questions, well, why didn't God just do this or that? Alright, so with all of that said, here goes my attempt at giving my response to the problem of evil. I believe that in the beginning, there was God and nothing. And one of the things that I believe about God is that he's perfect. Perfect in like an absolute, only God could ever be kind of way. Perfect in the way that God alone bears 100% of the glory of God. Somewhere along the line, I believe God chose to turn that nothing into something through the process of creation. But what's the nature of that something that God created? Do I believe that it's equally perfect to God? An exact mirror image? A duplicate of God? Bearing 100% of the glory of God? No. I don't. It would take me a whole video to explain why I believe creation had to have been created with its limitations, so I'm not going to explain that in this video. I'll save that for a future video, but I'll leave you with this. I definitely don't think it's because God wanted to feel superior over all of creation, as if God is some petty, insecure narcissist. If that was the case, heck, I wouldn't want to believe in that God either. Anyway, I believe there's this distinctive line between this creator and the creation. One is God, the other is not God. One is perfect, the other is not perfect. Now I know already at this point, I've lost some of you as you've brought in your own definition of perfection. You might be thinking, how perfect can a God be if his creation is not perfect? But I'm not using that definition. I'm using the word perfect and God synonymously. So that question to me is the same as asking, how God can God be if his creation is not God? Which goes back to what I said earlier about how I don't believe that God created an exact mirror image duplicate of himself. And I already said that I won't be covering that in this video. So let's put those other definitions of perfection aside and move along. As I was saying, one side is perfect while the other side is not. The perfect side bears an absolute value of 100% of God's glory, while the other side does not. But that's not to say that I believe creation bears none of God's glory. I believe it does, but just a percentage of it. A percentage ultimately deviating from that 100%. So it's from creation not being that 100% that I can see an infinite number of possible imperfections. So what would these imperfections look like? Well, if immortality is a part of God's perfect nature, then it would make sense that mortality would be a part of our imperfect nature, right? And so catching the common cold might be one degree of imperfection, getting cancer might be another. Likewise, if life-giving creation is a part of God's perfect nature, then life-taking destruction, like natural disasters, could be a part of the imperfect nature of our world. And then there's also will. If it is a part of God's perfect nature to use his will to reflect the glory of God perfectly, then it could be a part of humankind's imperfect nature to use their free will to go against it. But did God create the universe with its limitations with the intent to hurt us? No way. Suppose there's some guy who builds computers for others who really prides himself in his craft. He builds his computers by combining the best hardware and software that he can get his hands on. But even the best hardware and software still have their limitations. Do you think this guy builds these computers thinking, I can't wait for that person to get a motherboard failure? And that guy, I wish he gets a virus. No, we can understand that these kinds of things happen and it's not because of the guy who built the computer. So all of life's imperfections, suffering, evil, whatever you want to call them, to me, they're all just imperfections caused by deviations from God's perfection. Imperfections that are all very normal and to be expected when you're not God. And because of this perspective, I'm able to more readily normalize and accept suffering. It doesn't surprise me all that much how ugly the world can get. Because of this perspective, I don't think everything happens for a reason. No, I believe shit happens for no good reason all the time. I don't believe suffering is willed into our lives by the law of attraction. I don't see suffering as a consequence of past actions as it does with karma. I don't see it as a punishment from God, a test, a sign, nor a wake-up call from God. When suffering gets really bad on a global scale, I don't go on thinking, the end of the world is upon us! I also don't buy the idea that in this life, we can live free from all suffering through religion, good deeds, detachment from all passions, or enlightenment. And it doesn't lead me to believe that God doesn't care about us. So that's my response to the problem of evil. Suffering is just a normal part of existence when you're not God. As I mentioned earlier, I'll eventually make a video talking about why I believe creation had to have been created with its limitations. So keep an eye out for that, or just make sure you're subscribed to our channel. Thanks.